Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to RaceFace TV. I'm your host, Rod Wortham, and tonight we're celebrating our 10th episode. So we thought, what could we do special? Well, number one, we've started out by introducing you to our new set. So we're going to have two different sets that we're going to be sharing with you moving forward. Number one is going to be the RaceFace Garage, and number two, it's going to be the RaceFace Studio. And actually, we have a third one, which is our RaceFace Studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. But we're glad you're here. Tonight, we're going to actually go back and we're going to revisit some highlights of our first 10 episodes. And we're actually going to start with our first show where we actually had on the founder of ESPN, Mr. Bill Rasmussen, and one of NASCAR's next alumni drivers, Kyle Benjamin. And you know what? Kyle has moved on to some really exciting things now. He's actually racing some races with Joe Gibbs Racing. But we're going to go back in time and we're going to talk to him a little bit about a funny episode that happened between him and Bill down in Mobile, Alabama. And we're also going to hear from Bill on how ESPN made a big impact on motorsports. So check this out.
Bill, I know that ESPN had a huge part of the come up of NASCAR. Do you think NASCAR would be anywhere it is today without the help of ESPN?
I think it's the idea of sports 24 hours a day that allowed the networks to expand their ideas. When there were just the three networks before ESPN got involved, they had to take care of entertainment and news and sports and so on, and no sport really got any time. There were only like 25 major football games on an entire season. And now ESPN really does like 40 in a weekend.
Right, really gets to spotlight NASCAR now.
I think it's the 24-hour idea that opened up the eyes of everyone that you could cover more and more sports.
Right.
And one little side effect, 25 games I mentioned in an entire football season before ESPN went on the air. The year before last, ESPN live streamed the equivalent of 156,000 hours of sports.
That's amazing.
The appetite for sports in America and around the world is just insatiable. NASCAR, baseball, football, whatever it is, but sports, ESPN's there and you can get to see it.
So Kyle, if you could, you know, at what age did you get started in your racing career?
I got started when I was 5 years old, and there's actually a funny story that goes along with that. I took the go-kart to the track for the first time. Me, my dad, and a long-time crew member that I still have actually working with us now. I ran on my feet a lap around that track because I was so excited. Ran one lap and puked all over the ground. I was about 5 years old, and my grandpa's standing behind me, and he goes, "That's a finely tuned athlete right there." I really enjoyed taking you out in that pace car and letting you get a feel for what it was like to be in a car, and also, you know, get in trouble is part of the experience, I guess. You know, thankfully you got me out of it. Even though you got me into it, you still got me out of it. Once you found out it was you, I was definitely busted out of jail.
So I know we were going to talk about this the third segment, but we kind of headed into this early. But let me ask you something. I can remember looking up and going, "Where's Kyle?" It's kind of like, "Where's Waldo?" But where was Kyle? Can you share with the viewing audience what your penalty actually was?
My penalty was directing car traffic into pit road. Me and my teammate that were in the car at the time were standing out on pit road directing traffic, basically.
And that was actually in the rain, too, because we were under rain delay. Is that, if I remember correctly?
Unfortunately, it was.
Yeah. So it was good. But, I mean, Kyle, really, think about it. How many race car drivers in the world do you know that could say they took the founder of ESPN for laps around a racetrack?
Nobody. I guess I'm the only one.
You are indeed, Kyle, the only one ever. And it was, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that and how much I've told the story. And especially as you were explaining as the reason you go up to the top of the track, the reason you come down inside. And then when you started explaining where the crumbled asphalt was, and that's good sometimes and bad sometimes, or whatever it was you were telling me, I didn't learn everything that you told me that day. But it was an incredible experience from my point of view, and you enjoying it made it that much more so.
Where you went from the go-karts, and kind of take us on a little journey, because I know we got a lot of young race car drivers that are out there that are sitting here thinking about, how do I get to where Kyle's at now? What do I need to do? Do you have some bits of wisdom, if you would, that you could share with them?
Well, there's definitely a ladder you have to climb. I quickly went out of go-karts and went straight to quarter midgets, which I feel like is a way better baseline to start in. Then on to Bandoleros, Pro Challenges, and then into super late models, which is probably the toughest proving ground that I've raced on by far. Those guys have been racing since they were 17 or 18 or like well into their 30s now, racing super late models and racing at the same tracks that I was racing at. So as a 12-year-old starting out in super late models, racing against people that have been doing it for 10 years and doing it at the same places, it takes a lot to go out and figure out how to beat them. And when you get to that point where you're able to go run with them and even eventually beat them, it takes you to that next level. And then after that, I went on to K&N and ARCA.
Okay, so what we gathered from that little clip is, number one, is ESPN had a major impact on racing as we know it today. And number two, never give the ESPN founder a ride around the track in a minivan unless you're prepared to go out and park cars in the rain. So I think that was one of our greatest stories. But our next episode, we actually went down to Charlotte, North Carolina, as we started to build a relationship with my good friend now, Mr. Tom Baker, and he had a special driver in. His name is Ryan Millington, and we're just going to highlight real quick about how Ryan was actually in the Legend cars and how he's making the transition into a late model car. So let's see what Ryan has to say. How much fun did you have in those Legend cars?
They're definitely a lot of fun. They're a very unique car to drive with the amount of power and the tire size. They definitely taught me a lot. Transferring from the Legend car to the late model was a really easy transformation, I guess you could say. I caught on to late models really fast. They were the bigger tire, the amount of power was just really easy to drive compared to the Legend car.
And you now have your own car to race in, correct?
Yes.
Now, I understand, too, that you've got a very, very unique sponsor this year. Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, this year our sponsor is the POWMA Freedom Car and My Computer Career. The POWMA is Prisoner of War's Mission in Action. And basically that's just to bring recognition for, the Prisoners of War Mission in Action.
Okay, well, what a great story from young Ryan Millington, and I know he's going to have a super successful 2017 racing season, and you can kind of see how he transitioned into those smaller Legend cars to where he is right now. So the next little venture that we did was, number one, we decided that we needed to give Tom Baker his own studio background, so we did that, and his first guest on that show was actually young driver Tyler Dayton. Now, there's a story to be learned from this episode, and parents, if you're out there watching and you're thinking about getting, your child involved in racing, make sure that you don't take them to a race unless you are dedicated to make that commitment, because that's the bug that caught young Tyler. Let's take a look at that little episode.
You have an interesting story about how you got started racing, so tell us that and just kind of work us up through to now.
Well, we moved to North Carolina in 2006, and we didn't have an idea that I was going to race. It was a family thing back down in Florida when my dad did it and my uncle did it. But I wasn't really into the racing scene yet. I was young. But when we came down to Florida, we got an invite from a friend to go watch the quarter midgets run at NCQ May Speedway, and I watched my first race, and I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't very good at anything else, so I wanted to try this racing thing out. And, we went out and bought a cart, and I won my first 4 races in a row in the junior novice class. And we moved up through the ranks in the quarter midgets, and then, we decided that the next step would be the Bando, because that's where we saw a lot of the other racers going, was to the Bandolero series. So we ran the Bando. I wasn't very good starting out in the Bando. It was a big step coming from a quarter midget to a Bando. I went up through the ranks pretty quick. I went from a beginner bandit to a bandit in around, I think, 7 months. And then once I was old enough, I went straight to Outlaws, and that's when I started having more success. As I got older, I got better and more mature, and when I was racing. You know, I started taking it more serious, and I decided that I wanted to try and make a career out of it. So we ran the Bando for about 4 years. Ran the Summer Shootout Series, had success in that. Ran Concord, Motorsports Park Weekly. I think I ran 130 races one year in the Bando. It was rough, but you know, we got all the seat time I needed, and then we went straight from the Bando to a super late model because the Pass developed a series called the Pass Pro Series, and it was a kind of a chance for us to have, you know, a smaller carburetor and kind of have us learn how to run the supers, and you could run it at 12. So we decided that that would be a good step to learn how to run a bigger car early than to stay down and maybe, you know, run a legend car, and, you know, I thought the late model would be the best step.
So again, what we learned from this little piece was the progression of how young drivers move up through the ranks. Tyler's doing a great job doing that. And again, as we're saying about all the drivers, I think you're going to see some exciting things coming out of him in 2017. And I know that Tom is tracking his progress very closely. So later in the year, we're going to come back and give updates on all of our different drivers. So, you know, the next guest that we had on the show actually came from NASCAR royalty. And the young driver's name is Thad Moffitt, and he's the grandson of Richard Petty. So there really needs to be no other type of introduction than Thad Moffitt. We were glad that you're here. It has to be amazing to be able to look at the history. And I mean, the bottom line is, you can look at it any way you want to. Richard put this sport on the map. And to be a part of that's got to be a cool thing for you. So.
Yeah, I do. I want to live up to that family legacy that's not only winning races, it's treating people right on and off the track, treating them with respect, making time for every last fan to get their autograph, and just carrying myself in a humble attitude, just like my grandfather did. And I just look at him and take notes and mental notes whenever I'm with him and he is doing appearances and stuff like that, and just try and carry myself just like he carries himself.
And he still does that today. I don't think
he does.
I don't think I've seen him change, you know, probably in 35, 40 years. He's the same guy. He's the same humble person. And I mean, 7 championships. I mean, that's just incredible.
I mean, it's Richard Petty. That's like the biggest name in stock car, and it's just awesome that he's my grandfather. But growing up, it's just like every other family. We get together and watch football and baseball, and we hang out and eat pizza and get together on
Typical family nights.
Yeah, and we go bowling sometimes too, because actually Grandpa likes to bowl, and he's really good.
Really?
He beats me every time. He tries to teach me how to bowl, and I'm like, I don't know how you do this. This is nothing like driving a race car.
I mean, what's a family night without pizza and bowling?
So I got to ask you a question. Like when you go bowling, do you like, you know, turn around and there's like 500 people watching you and wanting to get Richard's autograph and stuff like that, or is
that's pretty much everywhere we go. I try and
hey, that's going to be you soon.
I try and look at him, and whenever I was younger, I didn't understand why these people are coming up to our table at restaurants asking for his autograph, and now I'm like, hey, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet him. If I see somebody at a restaurant that I've really been wanting to meet, I'd walk up to them and say, hey, can you sign this napkin for me or something?
Wow, what a story. Could you imagine growing up in the Richard Petty family, or even the Pettys in general? That must have been an exciting time. A lot of pressure on this young man, but I'm telling you what, he's already proven that he can handle it and that he's going to be a competitor. And, you know, I love the little story about as he was growing up that everybody would keep coming up to his table and asking for, you know, his grandfather's autograph, and he really didn't understand that. But I can guarantee you today that Thad knows exactly why those people were coming up. And like I said, we could have had a whole show interviewing Thad. So Thad, good luck this year. I know you're already having success.
Ever need a doctor after hours? Well, searching won't help. But what do? You could go to the urgent care or ER, but if only there was a better way. Introducing the MNO Plus card. No waiting rooms, no copay, no consultation fee, giving you 24/7 access to a doctor by phone or online. It's easy to get started with affordable plans starting at $15 a month for a family of 5. For more information, visit mnoplus.com today.
81% of consumers search online before even setting foot in a store. We help you create a strong foundation for your digital reputation. We help build your online presence to improve search engine rank and make sure your business information is correct across the web. You could do all of this on your own, but why would you spend more than 300 hours a year working on this? You have a business to run. Save time and put our software to work for you.
The Edge, Fridays at noon. If you're an entrepreneur looking for cutting-edge information, tips, tricks, secrets, expert interviews, it's all here at The Edge. Anything you need to build your business, this is the show to listen to. It's The Edge. Check us out Fridays at noon.
What has it been like growing up inside of the Petty family? I mean, I know that in some cases it probably has to be a lot of pressure, I would think.
Yeah, they don't put any pressure on me. My Uncle Kyle and my grandfather Richard, they don't put any pressure on me. All the pressure that I put is on myself because it is very big shoes to fill, and I do have a lot to live up to. But I just try and be Thad Moffitt, and if you don't, I mean, I just try and be my own person and not be Richard Petty or be Cal Petty.
Well, our next guest was young Reed Wilson. He also visited our studio in North Carolina with Tom Baker. And the one thing that I want you to hear about this little snippet from his show was how he gives back. Racing has always been about giving back and donating. Some of the biggest hearts I know are race car drivers. And we want to be able to tune in to what Reed Wilson is doing with MD. Tom, I can't wait to hear about some of the stories from Reed and especially some of the great causes that he's actually racing for.
Well, yeah, I want to let Reed talk a little bit about the Muscular Dystrophy Association because this is something that's very near and dear to his heart and something he's been doing for a number of years. Give us some of the background on that, how that started, and just briefly walk us through to now.
Oh yeah, the MDA, it's definitely something that I strongly believe in. We've had them on the hood of our car for the past few years. They're not paying anything. I just completely believe in their cause.
That's amazing.
I believe I was 11 years old or 10 or 11, about 9-10 years ago, when I first got involved with them. My dad was working with them with some kind of marketing stuff. And they have an event here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the athletes will be paired with athletes that they invite, will be paired with a kid for an entire night, and they go around, play games, and then there's a silent auction to raise money. And one of the athletes canceled or had to, and my dad was just like, my kid races go-karts. So, I showed up in my suit and everything, and I don't know really, I just kind of fell in love with it. And, I was only 11 years old, so I just knew that I was doing something good. But as I got older, I became more and more aware of this cause and what this money really goes to that's donated or raised.
Okay, well, Reed, thank you so much for what you're doing. I know that you've already competed in a couple of ARCA races since then, so you're going to have a great year. Make sure to keep focused. Don't ever forget about your heart as far as giving back to the community and the MD Association. Well, next we kind of took a different turn and we went out to the West Coast to the Wendell Scott Trailblazer Award winner, young Ryan Vargas. Now let me tell you something about Ryan. Number one, we're proud to announce that since that show, Ryan has actually became a RaceFace brand development driver. And we're really excited to be able to help Ryan build his brand and get more exposure. But let me tell you something, this young kid is a race car driver, and we're going to go out. Ryan kind of gave us a little bit of a different look. He's actually in the race shop. He's had some wins since then. He's had one, a couple of accidents here and there, but overall, he's got an amazing career put together. We invite you to go to his website to find out a little bit more about him at ryanvargasracing.com, and you can see a whole lot of information. But let's take a look at that interview with Ryan Vargas. I ask you, what was it like being at the NASCAR banquet and being awarded that Wendell Scott Trailblazer Award? I mean, what does that actually mean to you?
It's by far the biggest award I've ever received. I mean, the Wendell Scott Award, to be given an award named after such an iconic figure of the sport was just mind-boggling to me. I mean, when I first got the call that I was going to receive it, I cried a little bit. I teared up. Okay, so how's this year been going for you? Tell the viewers a little bit about what you got going on, what your plans are, what kind of successes that you've had, and then Casey's got a real interesting question to ask you.
I like this question.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this year, I can't deny this year has been really great. I mean, stepping onto our own team, we're now, our own team, Ryan Vargas Racing, my crew chief Charles, my whole crew, Vince, David, Thomas, and Scott. They put in a lot of work getting this car ready to race. I mean, right now we're on a hot streak of the first 3 races of the season at Irwindale. We have podium finishes, third, and first. And right now we're actually leading the points, which is so crazy to me because that's a track I grew up watching these cars racing at.
Awesome.
A lot of these watching as a kid. I'm still a kid, but as a kid, so it's really neat to be racing against those guys.
Well, I've been watching some video from you and everything, and you definitely got the talent. So I understand, a little bird told me today that you got a very interesting phone call from someone. From what I understand, you got well, just tell the viewers exactly how that went down and who gave you a call today.
Well, I'm joining with RaceFace brand development this year, hopefully to further my career and get my name out there. And I got a really great phone call today from Lauren Rainier, kind of the man behind the madness there at RaceFace, and it was really neat getting to actually know who he is, getting to talk to him, just get an understanding of what this year's going to be like, and I honestly can't be more excited.
Yeah, Lauren's got a pretty good track record, man. So I'm telling you, getting that phone call like that is pretty special because I can tell you he doesn't call everybody.
Pretty good statement.
Yeah.
He's decent.
So,
yeah.
All right, well, there you have it. Ryan Vargas, let me tell you what, I know Ryan's got a lot of things going on. I know that his goal is K&N Series in 2018, and who knows, you might see him in a K&N car before the end of the year. We'll just have to see. But I know that Ryan's going to do a great thing. He's a great ambassador for that Wendell Scott Trailblazer Award winner. And so, Ryan, we wish you all the luck in 2017, and we're really happy that you are a RaceFace brand development driver. Okay, well, next up was maybe one of my favorite shows of all of them, and that's young Colin and Blaine Dumas. These two young brothers are 7 and 11 years old. And you know what? It's kind of the core of what RaceFace TV is all about, and that's our ability to be able to go out and get young talent just like this and give them some TV exposure. Now let's see how they took advantage of that. Now let me ask you something. What are your goals? So when you're 18 years old, where do you want to be at in your racing careers?
I want to be either in NASCAR, but I really, really want to race a sprint car.
A sprint car, wow, that's pretty cool. So you like the dirt track racing?
Yes.
A little bit about these guys. First of all, Colin, I saw some statistics on you. You had 12 wins in 2016?
Yes.
You did? Well, can you tell us how that feels like? Is that like the best feeling in the world is to get into victory lane?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's pretty exciting. So what kind of car do you race? Tell me a little bit about your car.
It's a Phantom chassis go-kart, and it's very fast.
So who's faster, you or Blaine?
Well, one time I went out there and raced him, and I beat him because his go-kart wasn't running right, like the gas. Like, it was pretty fair, but he did beat me.
He did beat you. Well, that's going to happen for a team. He's got less weight, though. Is that right?
Yes, he does.
He does. Okay, that's very cool. So Blaine, let's talk a little bit about you. I understand you are a back-to-back champion.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about the type of kart that you drive.
I also raced a Phantom, and whenever I won those championships, that was insane because I won a 6-foot trophy, and it was pretty exciting.
Well, very cool. Okay, to me, that was a great story from Colin and Blaine. You know, the one thing that I'm starting to worry about a little bit is that they're pretty competitive. And what's going to happen when they really start racing against each other a lot as they move up? So, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Dumas, I'm pretty sure that you're going to have separate bedrooms for these two. But man, that's exciting. That's what racing is all about. It's a family sport. It's all about young drivers. And we're so pleased to be able to have them. And Colin and Blaine, if you're watching tonight, we're going to have our eye on you. So keep doing a great job. Next, we went down to North Carolina, back to our studio in Charlotte with young Cody Connor, as he was actually talking to Tom Baker about what it takes to create a brand. And a lot about creating a brand is being able to share with the viewers, be able to share with your fan base what your interests are. So here's an in-depth look at Cody Connor behind the racing scene. So let's take a look. Cody, here's your chance, brother. Tell us all about what's going on with you. Tell the viewers too, because you know one of the things about RaceFace is to help you create a brand. So not only tell us what's going on in your racing career, but tell us what your interests are off the track, type of music you like, what type of food you want, what you want the fans to really know about you as a race car driver.
Well, I'll tell you, I am 16 years old. I attend rowing early college. It's very tough to do with racing. We're getting to exam times, very stressed, got a lot going on. This weekend, speaking of racing, I got Caraway on the 5th, this Friday, and Hickory on Saturday. I'm very excited for this opportunity. 2 race days, back to back, different tracks. Definitely gonna use my my experience from Friday towards Saturday to Hickory. My music can be jamming out to really anything on the way there. Right before race time, though, I do like to listen to heavy metal to get me in the zone. And but just on doing homework, I like to listen to really anything.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. Is this going to be your first trip to Hickory?
This will be, I can't even count. I've been to Hickory many times. Honestly, it's a wonderful track, just needs a little bit of oomph.
Well, there you have it. We all know a little bit more about Cody Connor. Now, the one thing that I kind of question in that deal is heavy metal before a race. I don't know about you, whoever his car owner is, but something about heavy metal and trading paint and bending up metal, I'm not really sure that goes too well together. But again, Cody, thanks for being one of our guests. And again, we want to wish you a successful 2017 season. So our next guest is really kind of, our next guest is young 13-year-old, yes, you heard me correct, now young 13-year-old Sam Mayer, and one of my good friends and a legendary driver development person, Mr. Lauren Ranier. Now let me just tell you a couple things about Sam Mayer. He has literally won at every single division that he has been in. He's raced the legend cars. He's now moving into late model stock cars, and he went out to Greenville Pickens Speedway, a legendary track, and he won right out of the box. Now, the unique thing is, he has, in my opinion, the best driver development person in this business kind of coaching him. So let's take a look and see what Sam Mayer has to say, and also some of the suggestions that come from Mr. Lauren Ranier. So Sam, you're 13 now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's been going on this year so far? What races have you competed in, and how have you been finishing?
Earlier in the year, like in January, February, we were down in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing the winter heat in the legend cars. After that, we went down to Florida and over to Vegas, along with Texas, to do some more legend cars. Then we got into the late model and went down to Greenville and twice, and one of those I won.
Well, I know that I saw all the breaking news about that, and I know, Lauren, you can comment on that. That what a historic racetrack there in Greenville Pickens Speedway. I think probably anybody who's everybody has actually raced at that track sometime in their NASCAR career.
Well, it is a historic place and a really neat place to have your first stock car race with the history of the place, and then Sam being able to win his first race is kind of historic as well. Pretty hard to do right out of the box when your first stock car race. But he's been kind of setting records and legends all year this year with the Winter Heat Championship, and then he had basically he's only lost a couple of races this year, and so he's been kind of tearing it up in the Legends car, and then now we're starting to phase into the stock car stuff. Actually, starting this weekend, he's going to another historic track at Hickory, North Carolina, and he's going to run a limited late model there. And he's going to run the limited up until June and his birthday, and then after he turns 14, then he can go ahead and run full late models after he turns 14. So that's kind of what we're gearing up for is the late model stuff, and really it'll start in July, and then he can hit it pretty hard from that point on.
So Sam, I got a quick question for you. What's it like working with Lauren? I mean, you gotta know that he's worked with some of the best drivers in the industry. So, what does it feel like to get to work with somebody like him?
Knowing Lauren, he's a really good development person. He knows what he's doing and knows when to move people up to the next step. Being with him has helped me a lot. Just getting through all the legends and getting into stock cars now. He's just giving me the right path to go up to the Cup.
Wow, what great stories from Sam Mayer and Lauren Ranier. Well, there you have it, our first 9 episodes. This is our 10th. We're celebrating that 10th episode by having shared with you everything that you may have missed and some highlights of what happened. But guess what? Moving forward, it's only going to get bigger and better. Like I said earlier, we might be coming from our location in Charlotte, North Carolina. We could be coming from the RaceFace garage, or we could be coming from our new set here at RaceFace Studio. And as you can see here, I've got all kinds of rooms. So if you're a local driver and in the Tampa Bay area, or you're going to be visiting the Tampa Bay area, please connect with us at RaceFaceTV.com and let us know that you would like to be part of our episodes. For any of you drivers that live out of the area, do the same thing. Go to RaceFaceTV.com, let us know that you want to be a part of the show, and we'll reach out to you. So for all the racers that are out there, all the fans, we thank you for all of your support for RaceFace, and we look forward to an exciting next 10 episodes here at RaceFace TV, available at MNOTV.com. And as like always, we're going to ask you to go to our Facebook page, like us, and share with your friends, and we'll see you back here next week.